knowing you're making good money profit-wise and saying to yourself, you know what? I'm going to take X amount of this and I'm going to build another chair on the team. I'm going to go ahead and get another advisor or an admin or a power planner or a COO, right? And I'm going to squeeze my margins down again. So you did it once, you grew, right? But now I'm going to squeeze it again. We're going to reinvest back in my business, and I'm going to go to that next step. Hi, this is Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to the Magellan Network Show. My goal inside of this communication, this show, is to share with you my nearly 30 years of coaching some of the most successful financial advisors in North America. We're going to be talking about strategies, syntaxes. We're going to be bringing guests on from time to time, and I'm going to share with you what's working now. So think of this show as sort of like a little one-on-one kind of mini coaching cast, if you like, where we're going to be going in depth from time to time on strategies to help you grow your business, get more effective, become more efficient, find balance in your time management, grow your business, and quite frankly, whatever else is going on in the world today. So before we get to today's episode, I'd love for you to do a couple things for me. Number one, make sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're doing the audio, make sure that you give us a review on whether Spotify or Apple. We'd really appreciate that. And quite frankly, that does help. It does matter when you rate things and like things and subscribe to things. It helps us get the word out to more of the industry. And lastly, I have a very special gift for you. Go to MagellanNetwork.net, so one word, MagellanNetwork.net, and I have for you a complimentary membership, 100% gratis, where you can tap into about between 50 and 75 hours of masterclasses, forms, tools, templates, and strategies. So please go ahead and make sure you go ahead and get that claimed. Smash the like button and subscribe. And please go ahead and leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you're on. And now, let's get to this week's episode. Hi, it's your Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Welcome to September. Welcome to, as we get, we're just going to fly through the rest of this year, and next thing you know, we'll be talking about Happy New Year. But for this week, I want to talk to you guys about the growth game. And not so much like how you grow your practice or your business, right? That's the mechanics of it. I want to talk about the psychology and mindset of it, because I've noticed a lot of differentials in my 30 years, and I noticed a couple of core similarities of advisors who are able to ramp their business up at a much faster pace than those who kind of grind along, right, from that perspective. And I just also say that what's interesting about that is it's not intelligence or organization, it's really about approach. So let's kind of do a little background on this first, okay? I believe there are three core identities that every advisor has, right? So core identity one, the first one, which is when you get started, is you're the advisor. And I'm not going to kind of pigeonhole the timelines, but just for argument's sake, say, for the first 3 to 5 years of an advisor's professional lifespan, we are focused on learning our craft, surviving economically, right? And coming out at the end where now we have options, right? So, you get to the end of that, again, usually 5 years here, you're sustainable now. You're making some money, right? Maybe you have now in that 5-year window hired an administrative assistant, right? They're on your payroll. So you're investing it back into your business. What I find a lot of times, and we'll get to the other two in a second, is at that window, in that first formative 5 years, here's what I've noticed. Advisors who understand that they're starting a business, and I don't care what your business card says, whether you're purely independent running your shop, you're affiliated with somebody running your shop, or you have one of the big wires on your business card, it's still your shop. You're responsible. There's two types of advisors in this first 5 years. The first type of advisor starts making more money and they want to enjoy the fruits of their labor. So their lifestyle kind of mirrors their economic trend line. Okay, so in other words, if I'm making in year 2 or year 3, if I'm grossing $250,000, $300,000 top line before taxes, let's say 60 to 50% of that falls to the bottom line. My lifestyle is right on that line, right? And sometimes even over that line. And what happens if you expand your lifestyle too soon in this game, you don't have margin to reinvest back in your business. I've heard this thousands of times. Joe, I really need an assistant, but I just can't afford it right now. I go, dude, you got $300,000 of top line. What do you mean you can't afford it? You can't afford a part-time person? Like, what are we doing? And then I hear about the country club membership and the family vacays and the new car and all this other stuff. And I'm going, okay. So what happens is this person actually, if you really think about it, they really put themselves at a massive disadvantage. They retard their progress because they don't have the capital to reinvest back into growing their game. Okay? That's the first advisor. The second advisor understands they've got this business mindset, this business psychology that, hey, you know what? I'm going to delay my gratification. Year 3 is like living at year 1. And I'm going to take the delta, the differential, and I'm going to invest it back in my business. I'm going to hire an assistant, right? I'm going to go get some coaching, some training, and that person, because they're able to reinvest, will actually, if they're on a trend line, I know some of you doing the audio, I'll try to walk you guys through it. So if I've got 2 trend lines and they're kind of mirroring each other, this is advisor A, advisor B, what happens is advisor B, because they're able to reinvest, will now start really growing at a much faster rate than advisor A. There's a point of inflection there. So after that core scenario, then what happens? Because now you start getting staff, right? The next identity is the business owner identity. And with the business owner identity, right, you're profitable. There's no question whether or not you can go ahead and make it in this business. Like, you've validated that, right? So survival's not on the table anymore. But now you have choice. What do you want to do? Are you looking to build just a very highly profitable lifestyle practice? And the way I view a lifestyle practice, again, there's no hard rule, but typically it's lead advisor, an assistant, and maybe a junior advisor, maybe, right? So very lean, very mean, could be virtual, right? I've got clients that have built that model up to over $1 million of top line, and they'll have 70, 80% margin before tax, right? Super great thing, easy, lifestyle, portable, not a heavy lift. Then you get into the next window, which is the ensemble model, which you're going to have, definitely 1, if not 2 administrative person. You'll definitely going to have a junior advisor there. So it might be maybe a cadre of 4, right? You can scale that. Again, there's so many variables, so I hate to put numbers, but just for argument's sake, you can scale that to 2 million, maybe a little bit higher, depending on who you're serving, your marketplace, your model. And then you get into the third evolution, which is, again, these are all spectrums, right? So you can have a lifestyle spectrum, right? And then you have a ensemble spectrum, but then you get into the enterprise spectrum, okay? Enterprise spectrum is when you're, either bolting on teams, adding advisors, acquiring practices, where there's multiple advisors, sometimes multiple partners. You can scale that to, I don't know, top client of mine is doing $45 million of top line. So, sky's the limit, I guess, when you start thinking about it from that perspective. But here's the thing. The more you transition, the more you go from a lifestyle through ensemble to enterprise, the shift in the identity has to occur. So in other words, when you're running lifestyle, you are 90% advisor, 10% business owner, right? And not really too much entrepreneur stuff there. You go into ensemble, you're going to be probably 70, 75% advisor, definitely a percentage of business owner, probably the rest is going to be business owner, and then maybe a pinch on entrepreneur. When you get to the entrepreneurial, right, the enterprise model, you're maybe 20%. I've got clients that run enterprise, they do no review. They're like maybe 5% advisor, right? And the rest is some allocation between business owner and entrepreneur, depending on if they have a COO and different org chart scenarios. So we're not going to get into this conversation. The point I'm driving at is that if you're looking to build something that has some size, some scale, some scope, you have to understand margin and profits. And what you can't do is live a lifestyle that's 5 years ahead of when it should be. And so if some of you are younger advisors and you watch or listen to me, so let me just give you some words of wisdom. Delay your gratification. I've seen gratification screw more advisors where they don't have money for estimated quarterly tax payments. I've seen advisors have liens put on by the IRS. I've seen advisors go bankrupt, even though they've got production. Why? They don't have a vision for themselves. They don't understand their P&L. They don't understand margin. They don't understand profits. If you don't get this and you want to get this, I'm not an accountant, right? I've been an entrepreneur for 40 years. I can tell you, I know how to read a P&L. I know what profits look like. And early in my career, I will share this with everybody, I fell into the same trap a lot of young advisors fall into where my lifestyle got ahead of my game. And it's not a good place to be. Luckily we fixed it over a couple of years. It's not like you can fix it instantaneously. And, lesson learned about 20 years ago, 18, 20 years ago. Hi, Coach Joe Lukacs here, and I'm just breaking here for a moment just to do a couple quick reminders. Number one, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. In addition, please leave a comment or a review. Those things really, really matter. And share this episode with 3 of your colleagues inside the financial services space. And lastly, make sure that you go ahead and claim your free membership inside of Magellan Network. Now back to this week's episode. There's margin and there's reinvesting back into it. So this is kind of the second part of this lesson today. So you'll have times in your career as you're growing where, you invested back in your business, maybe you've hired somebody, and so now you got somebody in payroll, and your margins are really skinny now, right? Because I reinvest back in. But after time, your business grows, you have more capabilities, more bandwidth, right? And so your business grows, your revenue grows. And now margin, i.e. profits, are growing too. So now there's like, oh man, look at that. There's like retained earnings. There's money in the bank account at the end of the month, right? Stuff like that. And sometimes there's a tendency to say, oh, I can expand my lifestyle. And you can. But understand something. Cash flow and profits are the oxygen of growth. So if you're going to go get the new Mercedes or the boat or the new house or a second house, you have profits, but your lifestyle is going to eat into those profits. And you may not be able to hire the junior advisor, paraplanner, or something like that, and then your growth is going to slow down. Here's one of the hardest things to do as a business owner. Knowing you're making good money profit-wise and saying to yourself, you know what? I'm going to take X amount of this and I'm going to build another chair on the team. I'm going to go ahead and get another advisor or an admin or a paraplanner or a COO, right? And I'm going to squeeze my margins down again. So you did it once, you grew, right? But now I'm going to squeeze it again. We're going to reinvest back in my business, and I'm going to go to that next step. This is not a math problem for you guys. This is an emotional issue. To watch your margins and your profits go down to where, just for example, hey, at the end of every month, I had 30, 40 grand in my operating account, and I just hired the person, so every month now I only have $20,000 in my operating account, or $10,000, right? And okay, that's uncomfortable because I used to have this, now I have this. But accepting that economic, and when I say uncomfortable, your family's still doing what they're doing, right? You just may not be doing what you visualize doing yet, right? And I don't care if you're 5 years in the game, 10 years in the game, 15 years in the game, 20 years in the game. Delaying gratification to have the resources, i.e. money, to reinvest back in your business is how you keep the game growing. And don't get so caught up, and I don't think this happens, comment below if it does. I'd love to hear about it. When I started my game back in the early 90s, sales managers, and there was such thing as that, if an advisor was doing really good, they would tell them to go buy, you know what, man, you really deserve that Mercedes, or you know what, your family deserves a really nice neighborhood, or your kids deserve private school, or blah, blah, blah. And they weren't really looking out for the advisor. No, they wanted to give him a lot of monthly payments and debt, so they had to continue to grow, right? Service all that. Now, I don't believe in that. I never have, definitely don't today. But back then, man, that's kind of how it worked, right? They would saddle you up. And then you had to make it happen. So in other words, it became a bigger form of survival, not thriving. If that makes any sense. So I just want you guys to, you go through your journey in this business. Number one, make sure you understand the business, and profits matter, cash flow matters. Delay your gratification. I can tell you, there's 2 ways you bring staff in. There's 2 ways you build chairs in this game, okay? You either build them when you absolutely are critically in need of it, and here's the problem with doing that. If you wait till what I consider to be like the last possible moment, like you're over your skis, things aren't getting done, you can't take any more clients, you're over capacity already, Things are slipping through the crack. There's three things actually which are bad about this scenario. Number one, you're going to lower your standards of who you bring in, because you will. Number two, because your hair's on fire, technically, who's going to train? Because when you bring a team member, let me really be clear on this. Unless you've got and now if you're enterprise level, you have people that train different. But if you're like a solopreneur, tight ensemble, and you bring a team member in, you actually, for the first 90 days, lose productivity because somebody's got to train. Somebody's got to train and mentor and teach, right? I mean, they're just not going to stand there and get it from day one. So you actually lose productivity. So if you're redlining and then I got to train somebody, it actually is worse, right? And then the third thing of waiting too long is if you have other staff, you burnt them out. They're fried, right? So ideally what you want to be able to do is to predict in advance, 6 months to a year in advance of when I need to build another chair on the team. Start figuring out your P&L and budget for that team. And I'll say this right now. I don't know how many of you guys are looking for talent, but hey, it's slim pickings out there. We have an aging demographic in our space. So if you get somebody that has any level of experience, they're going to be, again, relatively expensive if you can get them at all. And if you go outside the space, which is kind of what a lot of providers have to do today, which is great, there's a massive learning curve. We all know that, right? From that perspective. So if you need a rock star today, you're going to have to overpay for that person and probably settle. But if you know you need a rock star a year from now, you can hire in advance, train, educate, bring them in the culture. Because if you do it that way, the second way, in advance, slightly in advance, right? Like 6 months before you think you need them, that's when you bring them in. You never lose momentum. You're constantly moving forward. And I've seen both stories. I've seen both situations. And I'm just telling you, the best run teams I have, they have profits and margins. They understand P&L. They hire talent in advance. They don't settle because they've got time, right? They'll be super picky. This is a very interesting scenario. They would rather take a rock star out of another industry and train them in this industry than get somebody average in this space. Interesting, right? Now, some of you are going to ask, where do you find these people, Joe? Where do you find these rock stars? I'll tell you right now where a lot of my clients are finding their talent, okay? If you think about it, and this is like a little sidebar conversation. Again, I don't recruit. It's not my thing, but I'm just going to give you what I see. If you can't find somebody in the space like licensed sales assistant, administrative assistant, whatever, who's a rock star and you can get them, then what are some similar professions or industries? So like think about behaviorally. What makes a great assistant? Okay? Attention to detail, right? They get stuff done. They finish things, right? So they're completion oriented, right? They can multitask. Not that we want them doing that often, but they can handle multiple things. They're extremely flexible. They're great with people, right? Think about that. So what other professions in the industry have those same characteristics? Medical, right? So if somebody works in a doc office, they got to deal with insurance companies. They got to deal with I say this respectfully, well, maybe not, the holier than thou doctor. And they got to deal with a bunch of crazy patients. Think about that. They've got to do forms, authorizations. There's just a lot of moving parts in a doc office, right? Or a hospital. Those people, because they're used to having to deal with things that are mission critical and time critical, they slot really well into our game. And by the way, shockingly, they don't make a lot of money relative to a sales assistant in our game. Second place I look, property casualty. Again, quotes and claims, right? Having to deal with the underwriters, the agency owner, and the client, right? Think about it. There's 3 different types of people they've got to deal with. Detail-oriented, time matters, so on and so forth. Great place. Again, they don't make a lot of money either relative to our space. Third space, which is my favorite space, by the way, mortgage processors and closers. Anybody but originators. Originators, I say this respectfully, are salespeople. So that's not what we're after. We want people to actually, quote unquote, get the work done. So again, they deal with the mortgage loan officer. They might be dealing with a realtor. They're definitely dealing with a homeowner, and they're dealing with underwriting. They got to lock a loan. They got to close a loan. Details matter. Things show up. Things show up unexpectedly. They have to multitask. They also don't make nearly the amount of money that our space makes. And because of the interest rates the last couple of years, and I'll share this, there are a lot of great people who are unemployed right now in this space. A lot of great people that are unemployed in the mortgage space. And I can give you two hands of clients, like 10 different teams who have gone into that mortgage marketplace on Indeed and have put ads in for career change. And we've gotten rock stars for half of what we would expect to get in our space. And they're teachable, coachable, trainable. So if you're looking for talent, I'd go fish in the mortgage space. I just would. That's my advice. Any of my clients come to me and say, hey, we need higher talent. I say, well, look, we can look for our space. Slim pickings, expensive. Who knows what we're going to get? And if anybody's on the marketplace, if they're really good, they should not even hit the marketplace. The job market, think about it. You go on the mortgage side, if you have access to Indeed or something like that, and you have access to resumes, there are thousands of resumes on Indeed right now who have been out of work for 6, 12, 18 months. Good people. So give that a thought, okay? Last thing, really important. We're coming up towards Q4. And I just want to remind everybody that there's still a year left. There's still games left to play this season. So I don't care where you are with your goals, keep playing. Nothing bad happens when you keep playing, okay? So thank you all for watching or listening to this episode of Magellan Network Show. See you guys again next week. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Hey, if any of this resonated with you, I invite you to come to MagellanNetwork.net, and we have a powerful group coaching community of like-minded advisors. Come in for a trial. You and I will have a one-on-one conversation. Let's see if I can help elevate your game both personally and professionally.